pocket rocket. He had a small gun.
This is Newswatch 35, the end of innocence, tragedy in Edinboro.
The tragedy in Edinboro is not a new one to America, but the nightmare has come home, brought here by one young man who calls himself Satan. Thank you for joining us on Newswatch 35 at 6 this sad evening. I'm Carol Wilson.
And I'm Tony Victor. Newswatch 35 has complete team coverage for you tonight, beginning with details of exactly what happened last night in Edinboro. We'll try to answer the question, who is Andrew Worst? And we'll take a look at the media frenzy now descending on the North Coast. Next, we'll hear from the kids who were there and find out what's being done to help them tonight. And we'll take a look at the life of the teacher who lost his life last evening. Well, let's begin now by getting you up to date on exactly what happened in Edinboro. 48-year-old Parker Middle School teacher John Gillette died after being shot in the head as gunshots rang out at Nick's Place in Edinboro last night. The school was holding its 8th grade spring dance there. 2 8th grade students, Ronnie Zimchik and Jacob Turry, were wounded by gunfire. Another adult was grazed by a bullet. 14-year-old 8th grader Andrew Worst was arrested for those shootings. He had made threats and promised that the dance would be memorable.
As Tony said, police do have a suspect in this crime. 14-year-old Andrew Worst is in police custody this evening. And tonight, everyone wonders what would drive a 14-year-old boy to open fire on his fellow students and teachers. Of course, there are no easy answers, but Newswatch 35's Tricia Rutherford gives us a glimpse into the troubled mind of a student who called himself Satan.
14-year-old Andrew Worst allegedly fired the bullets that killed a teacher, injured 2 students, traumatized an 8th grade dance, and ripped open the national wound barely healing from the recent student shootings in Jonesboro, Arkansas and Paducah, Kentucky. One of the bullets just missed Justin Fletcher, who says Worst believed he was the devil.
He believed he was Satan. He called himself Satan.
He called himself Satan?
Yeah.
Did anyone ask him what that meant?
No, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think he really believed it, but I guess he did.
Jennifer Buck says she's stunned at the news about a grade school friend. She's known Andrew Worst for years, but tells us he's really changed in the last year.
First, I knew him. He was so nice, and then he just changed. They said a few weeks before this that he was making threats at school, saying he was going to bring a gun to school or to the dinner dance and shoot and kill people.
Students tell us that Worst said he was going to make the dance memorable, but once he got there, they say he didn't act strangely. They said they didn't expect a thing.
He applauded when everybody else applauded. He was sitting with his friends, talking with his friends, doing the same stuff everybody else was doing.
Patrick Knaus knew Hurst for a few years. He never heard him make threats and never expected him to shoot a teacher and 2 classmates.
He always seemed like a good kid. He never seemed anything wrong. He was quiet. He was good in school. No one bothered him. Just seemed like an ordinary kid.
We'll never know if Andrew Worst was an ordinary kid before the shooting, but his life and the lives of everyone at last night's dance have now been changed forever. In Edinboro, Tricia Rutherford, Newswatch 35.
So far, none of the members of the Worst family have spoken with the media. Unfortunately, the killing has now put northwestern Pennsylvania on the map in a tragic way. The incident raises questions that cannot easily be answered. Still, the media has descended upon the region to try and find some of those answers.
Newswatch 35's Mary Amthor is standing by live now at the media village that comes to life in Edinboro. Normally, Edinboro is a small, quiet town, Mary. I would assume that's not the case tonight.
No, not really, Carol. First of all, on the way here, traffic was pretty heavy. There was a lot of people driving around, just curious onlookers, trying to come to terms with their own grief in digesting this incident. Quite a lot of journalists have descended upon this area. We have national networks represented here. Just take a look at some of this. We've got live shot after live shot lined up right here at Parker Middle School. Anchors and reporters all getting ready to go into their programs live and tell their versions of the story. Although, of course, we only know one version, and that is a 14-year-old boy is behind bars. He is awaiting charges on murder. 1 teacher is dead and 3 others wounded. It is not a story that the journalists I've spoken to here are obviously happy to cover. A great tragedy indeed in Edinboro today, and it seems to be affecting the community pretty deeply. Back to you, Carol.
Thank you very much, Mary Ann, for that live report.
Now, as our coverage on this frightening story continues, we want to know what you think. Our News Talk 35 phone banks are open to hear your threats. You can give us a call at area code 814-455-4032. We'll show you that number again in just a few minutes, and we will play back some of your comments at the end of the broadcast.
Through all this frenzy, the students of the General McLean School District are trying to understand what happened and why. School district officials and other professionals are trying to help them work through the shock and the grief. Newswatch 35's Carol Pella was at Parker Middle School today. She joins us now live from our satellite center. Carol, what are they doing for the students?
Well, Carol, the district is offering the students the chance to talk about what happened with counselors and clergy. Hundreds of students and their parents took advantage of that offer today. There were tears and embraces as students returned to their school to talk about what went wrong at the school dance last night. The district brought in its own counselors and others to try to answer questions.
I know you have a long list of questions. You want to ask me who, and you want to ask me how, and you want to ask me why. You know, the sad part of this whole thing is I don't have any answers.
50-year-old Justin Fletcher was in the room when the shooting started. A bullet passed through his shirt, leaving this hole in his body.
I thought it was all fake, and then I saw Mr. Gillette fall, and I realized it wasn't fake.
I just thought that his shirt, a bullet hole went through his shirt, and if this kid would have taken a breath or flinched, moved a smidgen of an inch, he would have been shot.
Justin went through one counseling session and went back for more. Colleen Zandbergen went to the session today with her daughter Brittany, who was there when the shooting happened. Zandbergen says she doesn't believe what's happened in her community. She does believe the community will make it through the shock and pain.
I think any small town that's close-knit, and they're going to shock about it. They pull ranks. We'll make it. We'll do all right.
Tomorrow, all teachers and other staffers will meet for a counseling session. The district wants to help prepare them so they're able to deal with students who might have problems coping with the tragedy.
Carol, do we know yet when the students will return to classes?
Yes, Carol, we do. Dr. Therese Walter says school will open as usual on Monday morning.
All right, Carol Pella reporting live from our satellite center. Thank you very much.
Tonight, family and friends are remembering John Gillette as a dedicated teacher and a family man. One of his closest friends remembers a man who learned about hard work and friendship at a very early age. Newswatch 35's Scott Bremner has that story.
Things for granted. Aside from his family, nobody knows John Gillette better than McDowell football coach Ron Rudler. Together. In the mid-60s, Gillette was the tough center on the Northwestern football team and two-year discus champ. Rudler was the star quarterback and pitcher. In the mid-70s, they joined forces again as Northwestern won the county championship. Gillette was the head coach, Rudler his assistant. They went different ways, Gillette coaching at General McLean and McDowell, but they stayed friends for more than 30 years.
I mean, he's a tremendous father, he's a tremendous teacher, a tremendous coach, and just a tremendous man, a tremendous husband, pillar of his communities that he's been involved in his schools. So I just can't say enough, and it's I feel very empty that I've lost a good friend.
Tom Phillips owns the Golden Triangle Motel, but he was a teacher for 40 years first. He knew both Ron Rudler and John Gillette.
John was a very kind person, the kind of a person that you would want your children to play ball for. He was task-oriented. He got the job done that needed to get done, but he got it done with feeling. He was compassionate.
We're all known by our titles, Dr. Smith, Attorney Jones. But for Coach Gillette, it was something more, especially for the people here who knew him. In recent years, Gillette gave up coaching to watch his son play, to teach science, and to supervise events like the Parker Middle School Spring Dance. In 2 years, he would have been eligible for early retirement. He dreamed of running his business and building homes, dreams that died in a single blast. Ron Rudler's 30-year friendship died in that same sound.
A very tough night on our family, and especially on Debbie and the kids and the rest of the family, John's immediate family and that. And so it's tough times.
Scott Bremner, Newswatch 35.
John Gillette's family declined an interview today, but funeral arrangements have been completed. Viewing will be held at the Glunt Funeral Home in Edinboro on Monday from 2 to 4 p.m. and again from 7 to 9 p.m. The Mass will be at the Newman Center in Edinboro Tuesday beginning at 11. John Gillette will be buried at the Laurel Hill Cemetery.
Our news crews will continue bringing you the latest on the tragedy in Edinboro. You can stay right here all evening with Newswatch 35's team coverage for all the very latest details as they continue to emerge.
Well, we're going to see some rain later tonight through tomorrow morning, but maybe some sun before the day is over tomorrow. I'll have the storm team forecast coming up.
And remember, we want to hear from you.
You can call our News Talk 35 phone banks with your thoughts on this tragedy in Edinboro. The number to call is area code 814-455-4032. We'll be back with more news in just a moment. Healing after a tragedy like the one in Edinboro takes a lot of things, and sometimes talking about it is the only way to start. We want to thank so many of you for calling News Talk 35's phone banks tonight. Here are just a few of the things that were on your mind.
And I think that we need to do something drastic with these young people. I'm for public caning or some other thing. Those young boys from down south that did all that shooting are getting out when they're 18 years old, and these other kids need some kind of an example.
As a student, I think you should just leave us all alone. You're causing unwanted stress and just making it harder for the people involved and everybody else in the town that's been traumatized.
The world is getting more evil and evil every day, and this type of thing, as disgusting as it is becoming commonplace.
I think these threats that kids are making, they better start taking them serious, either let their mom know or a teacher or somewhere, even if it isn't anything that's followed through.
Thanks again for your calls.
And we'll see you tonight at 11.
Good night.
Let's see, you have